Welcome back to the Jab Step for 19 Media Group. Jabari Davis back here with you. And of course, we have another fun panel in store for you. But before we get started, I want to thank each of you for all of your feedback that you've been providing via Twitter. That's at the Jab Step Pod or at Jabari Davis NBA. And I also want to thank each of you that have taken the time to review and rate and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the 19 Media Group YouTube channel. All types of fantastic content. Without further ado, all right, he is one of the co-hosts of the Jenkins and Jonez Podcast, which is a highly entertaining part of the iHeart Podcast Network, as well as one of the most consistently entertaining follows on Twitter. Y'all know him as Dragonfly Jonez. I can personally confirm that he is not actually living a double life as Tyler I am. Dragonfly, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you having me, brother. Good to be back.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're also joined by a fantastic writer for Bleacher Report and the co-host of the Hardwood Knocks podcast, which is a part of the Blue Wire Network. Dan Favale, thank you for joining us as well.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jabari. It was always fun talking with you.
No, without a doubt. I always appreciate y'all taking a few minutes on a Saturday. Let's go ahead and kick things off. And you know what? Let's go ahead and start with you, Dragonfly. We're not going to gatekeep on this show. And for the record, for anybody that's new listening or new to viewing, this is kind of a departure from the normal everyday NBA conversation. We're going to fanboy out a little bit here. We're going to talk about the players, eras, and even teams that made us fall in love with the NBA. So Dragonfly, start us off, please.
Yeah. So the player that made me fall in love on a deeper level, because I had been watching basketball since I was 5 or 6, right? But when Penny Hardaway came along. When Penny came along, man, because Penny came along right at the time where I was playing organized basketball, right? I just started out. I was a point guard, so I was like, this is the guy I want to play like. Of course, this is during the height of MJ, hysteria, and all the kids wanted to be MJ, but I was like, no, Penny is that guy. So yeah, it was Penny for me for sure.
I'm not mad at that. Look, a lot of folks that have come on, this is the 5th episode now. A lot of folks have come on and said, Penny, because quite frankly, we're all right in the same age range. And he was that guy. He was that guy for a lot of us with especially prior to the injury. Let me ask this question, and I've asked it on other episodes. Is there anybody that reminds you of Penny at this stage? And I recognize that there might not be because he was such a unique individual. That's part of what made him great. But is there anybody in the league that you would compare him to?
Yeah, he was super unique. Like a one of one. I would say that there's times where LaMelo reminds me of him.
Oh, okay.
A flashy passer, a guy who can get in the paint and score. Like LaMelo for sure gives me Penny flashes at times.
Not mad at that comparison whatsoever. I'm not sure. It might have been Josiah. I think he might have had that same comparison. But I appreciate that. Dan, what about you? What are some of the teams, eras, and players that made you fall in love with this game?
Yeah, I think the first team I remember religiously following where I can harken back and just think about their season was the 98-99 Knicks. And just like everything about that year, Patrick Ewing's knees turning into jello again, Allen Houston's game winner against the Heat, Larry Johnson's 4-point play, making it to the finals as the 8th seed. I think one of the flashback moments too is after they beat Miami, the most Jeff Van Gundy quote ever. He was mad because I can't even remember who caught the ball on the inbound for Miami after Houston hit the would-be game winner, and he pivoted, dribbled, and shot in 0.4 seconds. And Jeff Van Gundy was like, "Only in Miami can that happen in 0.4 seconds or something." It was just that team was so gritty. Just Chris Childs, Charlie Ward. I think I fell in love with them. Even though I was mainly a Patrick Ewing fan at the time, but he was so old, he wasn't there. And to see that team be so mediocre and not really good, but also make it that far, that identity and just so many moments are tattooed into my memory from that season.
All right, so I have to ask this question, and I'll open it up to both of you guys. Dan, you start us off. Does the 98-99 Knicks team, do they win it all or at least have a chance at winning if Ewing is available? Or is it just too difficult to play the what-if game, given that we already kind of know the eventual outcome, obviously, that it was a 4-1 Spurs series win with Duncan and Robinson winning their first title. But I always like to have the what-if game. Is there a chance, do you think?
As someone who cried when their mom told them that Patrick Ewing was traded, it pains me to say that no, not that stage of Patrick Ewing. Just the Spurs were so good. And 7 or 8-year-old me probably didn't comprehend what I was watching at the time. But that team was just head and shoulders and worlds better than the Knicks. If they had Ewing, even a better, healthier version of Ewing, they'd probably still get bounced in maybe 6 games.
Pat. See, the thing is, I grew up a Knicks fan too. I've kind of drifted away from them because I'm kind of sick of Dolan and shit. But during that whole postseason, I knew they were playing with house money, right? Like I knew that winning the East, they were playing over their heads, and I knew they had an ass whooping waiting on them when they got to the finals against the Spurs. So yeah, I don't think Pat would have had anything for Timmy and David. Nah.
That is fair. That is fair.
The Ewing theory, like, wasn't that the whole?
Right.
Bill Simmons' takes are rough, but that his absence. Like, since they weren't so, like, he wasn't so central anymore and other guys were able to do stuff, like, does it hurt? I honestly don't know.
It's one of the very few Bill Simmons takes I'll absolutely agree with you on. So I'm not mad at that one. All right. So another guy that you had mentioned, in the email was Glen Rice. And the reason why I wanted to go here is because it's another, what if situation. And look, this is fanboy Jabari here talking now. And obviously I came up, as a teenager in Los Angeles. Loving Nick Van Exel, loving Eddie Jones, loving that entire crew that kind of like paved the way for Shaq and Kobe. And I'll always feel like, and when I say this, I intend no disrespect to Glen Rice. Great basketball player, fantastic moments. I can remember him, coming off the bench in the All-Star game and putting up like 30 points and getting the final, getting the All-Star game MVP. So when I say this, I mean no disrespect, but I guess it is a little bit disrespectful. What would that Lakers team have been like if Eddie Jones had made that run with Shaq and Kobe instead of, initially going with Glen Rice that first year and then obviously trying to fill that void after the fact? How do you guys think that might have gone?
That's a good question. See, because back in that era, it's not like today where everybody's shooting from three. If you had a sniper from three, you know what I mean, and of course Kobe and Shaq in the mix in there too. They would be super, super formidable. I mean, they already were formidable enough, 3-time champs, in a row. But yeah, that is definitely something interesting to consider there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because the funniest part of it is I watched all of this in real time. I watched it in person. I remember him being at those games, but I can't tell you in that first championship run in 99-2000. I can't tell you like a Glen Rice moment. Like, so that's the reason why I always say like, damn, what if we had Eddie? And I recognize you're exactly right. It's back then it was not positionless, or at least, Phil Jackson certainly wasn't playing a positionless style of basketball. So they specifically wanted to, be more traditional. And you're certainly not going to pass on a sniper like Glen Rice. But I don't know, Dan, I'll always just feel like, damn, part of me just always wants Eddie to get that ring. But, such is life, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
I get it.
Yeah. It's like, I get it, but no. Forget your little kitty dreams. I understand. Okay. We'll keep it.
Eddie Jones was that guy though, man.
Man.
He was the reason Kobe was the sixth man on that squad. Eddie was that dude, man, for real.
Mm-hmm. No, without a doubt. All right, let's keep it going. So, the folks know I sometimes will throw the questions out in advance because I specifically, want to get a good answer for a question like this because this is a little bit off. I asked these gentlemen, and Tyler, we'll start with you on this one. If you could change one thing about the league, what would it be? And this is one where, you can have fun with it. The example that I gave, if you want the rocking jock 4-pointer, change approved right here, right now. Yeah. You want them to adopt the old school, FIBA trapezoid lane, it's yours. What's your change?
Yeah, I mean, going off what you said, I legit think there should be some serious thought put into a 4-point line, perhaps. Because, bombing from 30 feet is not as unfathomable as it was before this 3-point revolution that we have. That's something that happens semi-frequently now. So, I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years down the line, if we do get a 4-point line. Honestly, it's crazy that shit makes sense right now.
Yeah, and this is going back to mid-teens. I was like 11 and 12 when Rock and Jock first started, and I can tell you, like, there was nothing more exciting than it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how far this league gets out. With the ridiculous 25-point shot. I know the NBA is not going there, and we're not going to trivialize it to there. But like I said, I would be in favor of the 4-point. Before you give yours, Dan, what would you be in favor of that change or not?
I'd definitely be here for it. I'd be curious if certain players could sort of break it, but I like the idea of it, being able to bridge the gaps of larger deficits quicker, like where teams could probably get back into games more efficiently if they have a 4-point line. I do wonder if our team's going to set up behind the 4-point line. Like, are we throwing entry passes into Kristaps Porzingis we can miss in the post from 30, 32 feet out? Like, what does that even look like? So, but yeah, I mean, I'd be here for something that drastic. I think, with Steph and maybe even Dame in the game right now, it almost seems unfair. But I guess, you look at some of the younger guys, like Trae Young is taking those shots too. So if they're going to shoot it from that far, let's add a little wrinkle in there, I suppose.
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, whether he should shoot it or not, and you know what? This is not a slight to him because he's been fantastic for the Lakers. Malik Monk is shooting from out there. So, like, I feel like there are players in this league that will absolutely, be in favor of that. What about your change, Dan?
So I don't know if it's more of a change in how the broadcast is done for me. I promise I was not nerding out and watching like New Zealand basketball or something, but I saw a clip where they have this in the huddle camera and you hear everything uncensored. You're seeing the coaches like actually go through how they map out plays and speak about plays. So I'm a pretty stupid basketball fan, but I felt like a smarter basketball fan after watching it. But then also just like when I'm thinking about the NBA and sort of the missed opportunity during their cash grab in Disney, like let's uncensor those like player and coach mics too. I want to hear everything. If it has to be a special broadcast to go take a look at it, I'm done with most of the announcers anyway, like whether they're homers or if we're talking about national broadcasts. Give me that element of the broadcast where we can hear players say things on the court in the huddle uncensored. And then also I want to know, I guess there's some gamesmanship that goes into this, but I like the idea of having more intimate knowledge of what's being said, what's going on, how plays come about in the huddle.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. When I saw that answer, the first thing I thought of, I can't remember what the situation was, but there's a play where it was like Phil Jackson basically saying like, let them do this because if they, like what's going to take. Do you guys remember, what play it was? It was in a pivotal moment where it was just Phil Jackson basically like, breaking down like this is what they're going to do. And as soon as they do this, hit them with that. Like I'm 100% here for it. I don't know if the coaches would be here for it specifically because, if they would feel like it would, create a disadvantage if you had more creative, folks out there, specifically trying to, get in on that information. But I'd be here for it. What about you, Dragonfly?
For sure. I'd definitely be here for it. If we can go back to the rule change thing, I know the 4-point play is a little pie in the sky, so this is a bit more rooted in reality here. It's going to be some boring salary cap shit, but this is something I wholeheartedly believe. I think every team should be allotted one roster spot for one player that doesn't count against the salary cap.
Okay.
So that way, your superstars get, the ridiculous money, soccer player money that they deserve. Like fucking LeBron will be a fucking $300 million guy.
Easily.
Right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then you can get other guys, other, max contract guys to come along and play with those guys. So that's definitely something that I'm legit all for. Like I said, the 4-point play might be some pie in the sky shit, but I do think that one roster spot not counted against the salary cap will be an awesome change.
All right, so here's the deal. While I'm normally one that I'll kind of like let the experts talk about salary caps. I'm 1,000,000% in favor of that because like let's be real. Look, I know it's a team game, but the NBA 100% has been leaning in on the like it being a star driven league forever. Right. Why not make it so that every single market can have one of those stars? If if Charlotte, if you want to give LeBron $300 million, get him. Let's go. It isn't like those owners don't have that money. So I'd be here for it. But the one thing I will do is defend you on that 4-point play. I don't necessarily know how pie in the sky it was because think about it. The year I was born, I'm gonna age myself here, and Dan's probably gonna laugh at me. 1979 was the first year when the NBA included 3-point line. So prior to that, it was completely unheard of. All I'm saying is, people back then were complaining about even if Larry Bird were stepping out. So there's always going to be the old for older heads that say it's crazy. I don't think it's as crazy. I just don't.
I would even say like. I would say like there's got to be at least a 35 to 40% chance there is a 4-point line like 10 or 15 years from now. Just like this is like the same NBA where like the teams have expanded their logos so far so that logo 3s are like basically inching right up to the 3-point line. So it wouldn't surprise me if they had a 4-point line.
You've noticed that as well, huh? Yeah. Like so that the announcer can say logo 3.
Yeah, that Trailblazer logo is like right by the 3-point line for Dame. You see that shit too, yeah.
It's like right there.
You're right.
They're going to be end to end at some point. Logo layups are next. Like they're going to be end to end.
There we go. All right, keeping it going. All right, so another one of the questions that like I gave you in advance, basically to give you an opportunity to think about it, was if you could swap one player from today's game and swap him with a player from 1995, what's your swap and which player and team does it go to? Dan, lead us off with that.
So I had I swapped 1995 Grant Hill with present day healthy Zion. And I wanted to put someone just in the league at the time. Probably should have picked a different conference, I guess, but I love Grant Hill, so I wanted to use him. But like, what happens if like there's Orlando era Shaq and then Zion in the league just at the same time? That'd be super fun to watch. And let's assume that Zion's body is not a house of cards at that point and he's actually healthy. And then I didn't appreciate what I saw from Grant Hill in real time before his injuries. But when you go back and watch Grant Hill footage, he was like mega wired for today's NBA.
Sure.
Like we're talking like just point forward. His 3-point volume probably would have skyrocketed, but he was just so crafty, could have done a lot of things defensively. And aside from the Pelicans really just needing like good players like that, I would have been fascinated. Just take Grant Hill from that era and put him in today, because I think he would have been like beyond a perfect fit.
For sure. He was Diet LeBron James. He was like 0 calories LeBron James back in the 90s, for sure.
He really was. And look, I'm going to tell you right now, I almost wish that I had asked about, like, say, 92, so that we could, if you were going to make that swap, so that Zion could compete against Philly era Barkley. That's what I want. That's the matchup that I want. Like, if we could have it, of course, there's always like, Shaq versus Wilt. But for me right now, honestly, Zion, like a fully healthy Zion versus Philly era Barkley would be the one for me. And then on the flip side of it, I 100% agree with you. And when I say this, I'm not trying to sound like an old head. We don't have enough of an appreciation for Grant Hill, for the greatness of Grant Hill. And if you put him next to BI right now, my God. Well, for one, David Griffin wouldn't deserve that, but we're gonna give him one. We're gonna give you one. Dragonfly, what's your swap?
Kind of keeping it, in the big guy thing. I'd go with Giannis and Shaq, man. I would want to see, because in the whole, positionless basketball revolution, we've kind of seen the kind of phasing out of the dominant back to the basket big man like Shaq. So I would love to see how he works in this in today's league. And Orlando Shaq was a completely different Shaq than LA Shaq. He was, about 25, 30 pounds lighter, a bit more spry, a better floor runner than the Lakers Shaq. So yeah, seeing him in today's league, and then of course seeing Giannis back in '95, where the path to getting a ring was going through bigs like David Robinson and Hakeem and Ewing. Seeing what he would have for those guys, that would be super interesting.
Giannis versus Hakeem is a dream. Like literally, I wasn't even trying to be silly with that. That's a dream come true.
Yes,
my goodness, that would be fun. Man,
he would be another guy who'd be fun to watch now too. Like that's one of the other players I thought of swapping.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I did not prepare you for this. Being that this is a Hollywood and Hoops podcast, I didn't have a Hollywood question for you. If I'm not mistaken, it is the 50th birthday of the absolute queen, Regina King. Mm-hmm. What would be your favorite of her performances? I'll give you some time because I mentioned on Twitter that it's recency bias. Watchmen.
That's what I was gonna say that, and exactly why recency bias. But she was so badass in Watchmen, dude.
She really was.
She was amazing in Watchmen. I've been riding with her since 227, since Friday, and all that. So, but yeah, her in Watchmen. Oh my God.
Listen, with 227, I was a child and I had a crush. The conversation changed with Friday, with Boys in the Hood. And with higher learning, it was a different appreciation. Yeah. And it has been the same appreciation since that moment. Dan, what about you? Are you on the recent train? Like I was going to ask, like if you guys had seen The Harder They Fall.
Oh yeah. She was amazing in that too.
Incredible in that.
For sure. I hate how tune out if you haven't watched this. I hate how they let Zazie beat her ass like that because, dude, come on. Really? Really?
And no disrespect to Zazie because she is absolutely incredible as an actress, and she's great at her cast. But when they cast her as Stagecoach Mary, I was like, all right, well, I understand why they did it because I'm not complaining about having Zazie on screen, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily fit because, Stagecoach Mary was a badass that might have beat her up, but I can't believe that Zazie would have.
Zazie was not intimidating at all in that role. She was like Dot from the Animaniacs and that shit, bro. I couldn't get past. I was like, this is Dot from the Animaniacs, bro. You're not intimidating me right now like you should.
All right, Dan. I know, like I said, I know it might be a generational thing, but do you have a favorite of her characters or her roles?
So the first thing I do remember seeing her in was Jerry Maguire. And so like I haven't seen, I'm the worst person to ask about recent I haven't seen Watchmen, whatever you guys were just talking about. I haven't seen any of it, but I do remember seeing her in Jerry Maguire. And she feels like she's been in everything. Is one of those like actresses that's just been in everything. So there might be a generational gap there, but I've seen her in what feels like countless things to the point that I couldn't even name them, at least like dating back a decade or so, because I've been so out of touch with like movies, TV shows over the past decade.
I'm not mad at that. And you know what? To be honest with you, if you go to her IMDb, which I did this morning, she has literally been in everything, like stuff that I didn't even remember that she was in. So yeah, no, I get the vibe. I get the vibe. All right, gentlemen. You know, honestly, we're already done. We're gonna wrap this up even quicker than anticipated. But before we get out of here, Dan, can you let the folks know where to find all of your incredible material and where they can follow you on social media?
Yeah, they can just find all my nonsense on Twitter. Is the best place to follow me at Dan Favale, Favale.
And I appreciate you correcting me. I've been saying Favale for the past like 5 years since I've known you, and it's good to. Hey, he's so kind. I've had him on my shows and said it wrong repeatedly, and he never even corrected me. Thank you.
There are shows that I've gone on for like 5 years, 6 years. I just won't correct them because like I was so awkward coming up in this business that I wouldn't correct anyone. At this point, it's like, call me whatever you want. I'm humbled to be invited on your show. So
you're the man, Dan Favale, and I will get it right from this point on. Dragonfly, what about you? Where can they find your stuff and all of your incredible material?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter, Dragonfly Jonez. Check out Jenkins and Jonez Podcast on iHeart, the Volume Network. And that's where I'm at. I tweet a lot, so just be prepared for that if you do click that follow button.
And I'm going to make it very clear, like, this is the thing, like, I say all types of nice things about my guests, but the reason is because I cherry pick and I only pick guests that I like. He really is one of the most incredible follows on Twitter, always entertaining, always engaging, and always, honestly, going to challenge you to, challenge your thought process on things at times. So I appreciate
it, brother. Thank you, man.
I will second that for what it's worth. And third it on behalf of the other guest.
Without a doubt. And as I do each week, we're going to close it out on make sure you follow these guys, show them love, rate, review, subscribe to all of their programs, show them the love that they deserve. And if you don't, you're a punk. Thanks for watching.
There it is.